What's going on with Facebook here?
Well, wait, did you see the email we got? There we go.
There we go.
Cool. You on there?
Yep, we're good.
Okay, cool. Hey, Ryan, thanks for joining us, man.
What's going on, guys? I appreciate y'all having me on, man.
Hey, Ryan, appreciate you taking the time. We know you should be super busy right now, so we appreciate you taking the time to join us and do this tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate it.
If you can you talk a little bit about baseball growing up for you and what it was like, and when did you get started, and what were some of your experiences growing up in, California, where baseball is as competitive as it is in the world, right there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for me, definitely from the jump, I think I was attracted to baseball. It was definitely my first love when talking about sports. Um, my mom, she was a multi-sport athlete. She played volleyball, basketball, and where she's from a really small town up in Seneca, so they didn't have softball up there, so she played baseball with the boys. So she's super competitive. My dad was a hooper. He played basketball. So I think just, I mean, having a background like that with both my parents, just being in sports, helped me for sure. Just want to be active at a young age, and it happened to be baseball for me. So I could just, for me, when it comes to when I started, I think from just my first memories, I was always picking up a baseball, picking up a bat, just around the game in general. And like you said, baseball being so just so dominant in California because obviously just weather being a huge part of that. Just us always being able to be outside and play year round also played a huge role in that. So um, yeah, man. I mean, like I just said prior, I was just always playing baseball from a young age. Uh, just immediately loved doing anything that involved me getting out of the house, and whether it be playing with my neighbors or playing with my boys or just the travel teams, whatever.
Now, when did you really start focusing on pitching? Like, what other positions did you play in high school? And when did you find that, okay, pitching is what I need to do?
Yeah, for me, it came really late. So I didn't mature till honestly, I was probably a senior in college. So I was super immature for my age when talking about my body and just my physical presence on the field and everything like that. So I was always a first baseman. Even in high school, I was always a first baseman, and I didn't really. Uh, I only pitched, I want to say, 6, 7 innings in high school in total.
Wow.
So I really didn't pitch much in high school. So for me, uh, I became a pitcher only. I became a PO when I got to college. So when I got to Indiana University, that was the first time I really put down a bat and just really focused on pitching only.
Well, how was that transition? That's got to be crazy. You're going to college to play baseball. Probably thinking first base. How did that transition happen? How did that conversation go?
It was crazy, man. I mean, a lot of things went into that happening. So for me, I didn't really get a lot of looks when talking about colleges in the California area. Just being in high school, I committed to Azusa Pacific University, which is a NAIA school that was really close to my home, about 12, 15 minutes from Rancho Cucamonga, where I'm from. And I originally committed there going into my senior year, and I just something deep down in me, I always wanted to go to a bigger school and just kind of branch out and get out of California and kind of just do my own thing, pay my own way, in a sense. And I ended up, like I said, I threw about 6 or 7 innings in high school, and I ended up getting drafted out of nowhere by the Astros actually um, in the 36th round to be a pitcher. So once that happened, I got a ton of offers from California schools, and I knew I kind of didn't want to be in California. Like I said, I just wanted to get out. So my pitching coach in San Diego at the time, Dominic Johnson, was really good friends with the coach at Indiana University, Tracy Smith. So he happened to be out for a weekend in San Diego, and I was there. I threw for him. He liked what he saw. I threw the next day. I threw like an inning or so. Um, and this is just to give you a timeline. This is like probably 3 weeks before school starts in Indiana. So he saw me pitch. I flew to IU. Uh, Loved the campus, fell in love right when I stepped on the campus. Flew back to California, signed my letter of intent, um, and showed up like 2 weeks later with like flip flops and a tank top. A kid from California just looking way out of place. It was crazy, man. But I loved it out there, man. The best decision of my life up to this point, for sure.
So, what was that transition like? You go from sunny California to the Midwest. That had to be culture shock. Families thousands of miles away. What was that experience like for you? The first, month of getting to college and meeting a bunch of new guys, and you didn't go through a full recruiting process, obviously, with them. So, what was that like for you?
Absolutely, man. It was, uh, in short, it was just a whirlwind of emotions, and it was crazy for sure because just me, I literally didn't know one person on campus. I had met uh, Tracy's son. His name was Casey, and he was there actually in San Diego when I threw the bullpen because he was playing summer ball with that team at the time, and I'd met him one time. So when I showed up on campus, he was literally the only person I knew. So just me, just being from the West Coast and showing up and just never really, like I said, my mom's from Oregon, so I've experienced weather, but not like weather. You know what I'm saying? So,
Right.
uh, yeah, and to make it, it's kind of funny because the first year that I was there was like the worst winter in Indiana in like I don't know how many years, with like ice storms and just it was just insane. So I got thrown right into it. So I definitely got exposed for sure. I had to go get a I had to go get a winter coat and whatnot and all that. But I learned that year for sure. So I prepared after that, no doubt.
Well, I need to know this, and there's probably a lot of uh, kids right now that listen to this show that are in high school that just heard you say that you got drafted. I guess it was a junior draft in by the Astros. You get something like that happening in your mind. Like how did how did you transition to say, okay, I want to go to college and do like that? That is just that's crazy to me. Like, um, I guess that, I'm trying to think of the best way to put it. Like you're starstruck because wow, I got drafted by the Astros and I'm 18 years old. Like, I mean, what goes through your head at that point? I don't know if my words are right now because that just kind of blew my mind. You get that news and then you're like, okay, now I got to play college baseball. Like,
Yeah, dude. To be honest with you, it was very crazy. I didn't know really what to think because, like I said before, it literally came out of the blue. Like I wasn't expecting it at all.
right.
Neither was my family. So I want to say it was last day of draft day, and I just got a call. I know his name was Tim Kostick for the Astros. He'd reached out to me before, just saying that he kind of had interest. And for me, really, I didn't really. I mean, I was 17 years old, so I really didn't think much of it, because he just uh, on my high school team we had a couple big time prospects that they also got drafted, but I never thought I was going to be one of those dudes. So we got a call on the last day of draft day, and he's like, "Hey, we're going to probably take you within these next couple of rounds." I was like,
What?
"For real?" Yeah,
Do
but
what?
yeah. So uh, at the same time, it all happened so fast when talking about getting drafted and then um, choosing to decommit from APU and then committing to Indiana and weighing all those options at once because the draft was in June. So I had to figure that out. And then I figured out that I really wanted to go to college just because I thought my parents were going to kill me if I didn't go to college. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Uh, but at the same time, I really, like I told you before, I really wanted that experience of just kind of getting out of Cali and doing my own thing and going to a big time university. And I was fortunate enough to where that opportunity came up and everything aligned and it all worked out and I was able to go out to Indiana and do that whole thing. So I'm thankful for all that because without getting drafted, that would have never been an option for me.
And here, what blew me away is you said you threw 6 innings or something. I mean, how does it? How, did they ever say how they saw you? Were they there to see somebody else? You know, how did you go from that to pitcher only? I mean, that's kind of like that in itself is crazy to me because kind of generally you see the writing on the wall. Not that pitcher onlys, you turn into those in college. A lot of those guys could hit 3, 4, 5 in the order in their high school team, but like that has to be a heck of a whirlwind as well for you on the field as you deal with all the stuff off the field.
Yeah, it was crazy for sure because so the time that I did pitch in high school, it was against. He actually went to Upland High School. His name was Scott Frazier, and he actually got drafted. I want to say by the Cubs, but he was a big time dude in our high school. I mean, he was throwing really hard, uh, really polished for his age on the mound, and he was the best pitcher in the league. I want to say, and it happened that I went in, I threw and he threw, so there were just a ton of scouts there to see him. Uh, I was able to just to get some exposure that way, just throwing against him. So I think that might have been it for sure because, like I said, I don't remember throwing any time else. I think I threw like 3 or 4 innings that game, and the other innings that I threw might have been like a 1 inning, just like
Right.
mop up a game or whatever, like because we had no more arms left or something like that.
Wow. All right. So you get to Indiana. What were some of the biggest challenges going from high school? And honestly, for a guy who hadn't pitched a lot, what was some of the biggest challenges you faced?
To be honest with you, I think it was weird because I was so regimented in being a position player and taking so many ground balls and taking all these extra swings and doing all this. And like once I was a pitcher, I was like I get to, wait, I'm done. Like my day's done, you know. So at the beginning it was that for sure. But at the same time, I was all of a sudden I was pitching against collegiate level players and talent, and I had never really done that before. So for me, I think my mindset, just going in as a freshman, was just really take every single opportunity that's given to me and make the most out of it, and kind of just get rid of any sort of, not saying that I ever had one, but getting rid of your ego and just kind of trusting your coaching staff and trusting the trainers that we had and our strength staff and all that, and just really kind of dive into the process of just being a collegiate player because I'd always dreamed of being a collegiate player. You know, you always dream of going to the College World Series, and me being from SoCal, um, just naturally, I always wanted to play for Fullerton. And you watch the College World Series, and you see all those guys with the pinstripes and going to playing at Rosenblatt in Omaha. And it's just like, he's like, how could you not want to do that? So that was always my dream, to be a collegiate level player, and just for me to actually be there and given an opportunity at a place like Indiana, I was just so happy to be there that I would literally, they could tell me to do backflips and I try to do a backflip. You know what I'm saying? I would do whatever. So I was just there to compete and just fight for a spot and just help the team win, man.
That's awesome. You brought up, man. I remember being a teenager watching Cal State Fullerton. Like, what the hell is this school? Where are they at? And man, even 20 years ago, they were incredible to watch on ESPN and the College World Series. And where you grew up, man, college baseball is high. You got UCLA and them and Davis and Irvine. I mean, you got so many good schools there, and all the NAIAs and JUCOs that are in Southern California to play for that the majority of people across the country have no clue, but the people who live there know the type of talent that comes out of that area. Um, One thing I do want to ask though is you were new to pitching. What was the relationship with the pitching coach like in Indiana? I mean, I'm assuming you had to probably develop from just being a thrower into a pitcher, right? I mean, so was it let's work on a curveball, a changeup, slider? What was that like for you in developing those pitches as you matured into this pitcher?
Yeah, for me it was definitely so younger. I would pitch in travel ball, so it's not like it was completely foreign to me. But at the same time, that's travel ball. You know, you're just out there having fun with your boys or whatever like that. But it was definitely challenging, especially you saying working with the coach and everything, because a coach, like having a pitching coach dedicated to you that entire time, that was definitely new to me. So just having an outlet to ask questions and just bounce ideas off and just kind of see where their mind was at with the whole thing and everything. It was crazy, but my freshman year, even my sophomore year, I didn't really have much of any off speed. I was always able to locate my heater and kind of uh, attack the zone. So that's what they really loved about me. I had like a little split flash change that I would throw here and there. But my first couple years, dude, honestly, I really only had coming out of the bullpen too. So I wasn't throwing a ton of innings. So whenever I came into the game, I would just really, my heater was my best pitch. So I would just attack with that and try to get ahead of hitters and get early contact and keep my pitch count down. And I think that's what they really loved about me, that I was out there throwing strikes and keeping the game moving and keeping the pace play up. And especially at the collegiate level, that's kind of what they were looking for.
Now, everything's fastball command. You hear that from every pitcher in the world, right? It all starts with fastball command. I love what you say about, pounding the strike zone basically in good tempo and rhythm. Everybody likes to play defense behind a pitcher who's not walking guys. They'd rather, put the ball in play, strikeouts, run up the pitch count generally. Um, you know, in college is different. You're pitching back-to-back nights, double headers on a Saturday. What was that routine coming out of the bullpen like there? I've known guys that were a position player. They're playing first base. They run to the pen. If they're not hitting, they get loose in a hurry. They come back. Oh, you're not going in. What's that like in that environment to where you're not a starter, to where, oh, on Friday you're going to pitch the game, or on Saturday you're pitching the second game? Like, you don't know as a reliever when you're going to, you know, get the call to get going. So what was that experience like for you?
Exactly. So it was definitely tough to get obviously a routine and just get prepared for each game. But I really, um, for me at Indiana, I really kind of got lucky to where my first outing ever was against Coastal Carolina, and I came in, I want to say for like inning and a third, inning and two thirds, maybe two innings. But we ended up winning that game, and Coastal Carolina was ranked, and obviously we weren't ranked at the time, and they were a really good team. We ended up beating them, and I closed that game out. And I think from that game on, as a freshman, I kind of got put into the closer role. So just being able to put in that role as a closer kind of right away, kind of off the bat, to start the season, really helped me a lot because I knew my role. I knew what I had to do. I knew when I was going to pitch, when I wasn't going to pitch, obviously depending on the score of the game. And I knew that I was going to be in the later innings. So sometimes I would have to go two innings, sometimes one, sometimes an inning and a third, whatever. Sometimes even go in a game earlier when that might be the most pivotal turning point in the game. When talking about like the fifth inning, bases loaded, come in, get a stop, and then kind of get the momentum over to us, and we end up riding that wave to that certain game. So it being in that role right away helped me so much because I was able to get a routine down and kind of know what I had to do and know my body, know how long it took me to get ready to go in, which is I've never really been a guy that has too many pitches in the bullpen. I could go out there and throw like 5 or 6 and be able to go in the game. So that kind of helped too. So like I said, being in that role right away helped me a ton for sure.
You must love watching playoff baseball when they bring in the closer. Hader comes in the fourth inning or something crazy. That you got to love that stuff, right? Being in one of those roles.
Yeah, for sure. Because what a lot of people don't get is sometimes like a game like that. So when Council puts Hader in a situation like that, that's to him in his mind that's the most pivotal moment of the game. So he's saying if they could get out of that jam, then they have a chance to win that game. So yeah, it's really cool to see relievers utilized nowadays because there's so much stuff going on in this day and age game. It's crazy, and a lot of people are doing so many different things. So it's definitely cool to see stuff like that.
Now, can you talk about your draft experience after college? Talk about what that was like. If do you remember where you were at the time? Did you go out to eat afterwards? Did you celebrate with friends and family? What was that whole experience like? I love hearing these stories.
Yeah. So the second time that I got drafted, was actually we were playing a super regional against Florida State at Indiana, and so I had two roommates at the time, and one of my roommates got drafted the first day, so he got drafted in the 5th round by the Twins, and then it was me and our third baseman, and then we ended up actually both getting drafted during the game that day. So during the game at the Super Regional against Florida State, we both got drafted by the Twins as well. So we all got drafted by the Twins, and we were all college roommates. So that experience was nuts because we never expected to get drafted by the same team, let alone just getting drafted like on the same day like that. And just the whole situation that we're in, just playing, like you said, we ended up, I think we won that game against, it was the first game against Florida State in that Super Regional. We won that game. First game of Super Regional at Florida State at their park. That environment was nuts. And just to get that dub, we both got drafted. And we're like, dang, man, it was a crazy day. And then, of course, all of our families were out there because of Super Regional. So, of course, it was our first time at a Super Regional at Indiana. So, had all the families out there. So, we all kind of went out to eat and celebrated that. And then, so that was that time. And then I elected to come back, to decline the draft that year and come back for my senior year at Indiana. And then it was crazy because so I ended up, our home opener, I ended up tearing my ACL my senior year. So that was a whole situation in itself. That was nuts for me to kind of experience that whole thing because I came back and we had a bunch of dudes coming back like we had a really good year. 2013 we went to Omaha and all that, and then 2014 was going to be, we're trying to win the Natty for sure. So we had all those dudes coming back, which was one of the main reasons why I came back, other than finishing my degree too. I wanted to finish my degree, so I came back. Ended up tearing my ACL first game, home opener, and then so I was out that entire year. Had to watch, which is really tough for me for sure, but very thankful for that experience and just kind of going through that rehab and kind of learning about yourself and just learning whatever you can during that process. And then my last year, I got drafted by the Giants. And I was actually at my house, my dad shooting hoops in our backyard because I hate watching the drafts. It's just something that's like, to me, it's just like, there's no point because it's like, whatever. So it's like, we didn't have anybody over at the house. It was just me, my mom, and my dad, and we were just shooting hoops in the backyard. My mom came out here. I was like, hey, you just got drafted by the Giants. And it was like, for real? And then I got it. My phone was out there because I knew the draft was going on. So I got a call from the Giants scout that drafted me. And then I got a call from my agent as well right after that. And it was cool, man. It was cool because like having it happen 2 times prior, it was I kind of understood the process and how everything worked. And me being a 5th-year senior, I kind of knew where I stood as a prospect at that time and as a player, and I kind of knew what was going to go down. So I'm just thankful for the Giants for drafting me and just giving me this opportunity and just still living out my dream, man.
Well, it's incredible because not once but twice you delayed gratification. You could have accepted back when you were 17 years old. You could have accepted at the end of your last year, and you didn't because you wanted to continue. So I just wanted to bring it up just because for the young kids listening, know what you want, and that's. I don't know if I would have made the same decision at 17 that you did. I mean, obviously you had family there helping you make the decision as well. But I think a lot of it sounded like you already had your mind made up. And I mean, then when you're in college, you're in a super regional, your friend gets drafted the same exact night you do to the same exact team. It's like, how do I decline this? Like, that's just amazing. And I just commend you for that. It's incredible. And, but the one thing I do want to say is like that game coming back and tore your ACL mentally, that had to do a lot for you because you probably had some thoughts in your head like, I can't believe this just happened. Maybe I should have just, said maybe I should have accepted the offer last year. How did you deal with that mentally? What were some of the things going through your head?
I tell you what, man, that was my first major injury, so I'd never really experienced anything like that. But even uh, prior to that, just talking about coming back for my senior year, I just knew me personally, I just knew that I wasn't ready for the next level yet because I just like I said before, uh, I just didn't have those off-speed weapons that I knew I needed to have going into the professional level. So that's another reason why I came back. Because just deep down somewhere in me, I was like, I don't think I'm ready yet. And that was one of my biggest goals is to come back ready to go, um, and just for my senior year. And then that whole thing happened, and it was tough, man, for sure. Because like I said, first major injury like that happening to me, you don't realize, especially being the home opener. Uh, it was our first home opener, uh, and we had our brand new stadium and everything, and just having it happen at home in front of everybody, and it was just like you could hear a pin drop in the stadium when I went down and like and carried off the field. And I remember I was in the training room and there were some scouts at the game. And they came in to the training room and they're like, "Hey man, is like everything okay?" And like it's like I just knew that I was gonna be out for a year because I knew just like hearing the pop and everything like that, just going down, not be able to really walk on it. You kind of know just internally that I knew I was gonna be out for the year. But like I said before, I think it was the one of the best things that happened to me for my career for sure because I really took that rehab. I took it so serious, and I took everything that came with it really serious. When kind of trying to develop new pitches and stuff like that coming in to the because I knew I was gonna have to come back next year and get to play uh, because my coach called me actually that summer and granted he said he's gonna grant me my scholarship, which is which was awesome. One of the coolest things that happened to me at that university for sure. But the rehab was a grind, man, for sure. But like I said, I took it head on, and you learn when you rehab for like 8 or 9 months, you really learn about yourself, and you have a lot of time to invest in yourself and set out goals and kind of plan out what you want to do uh, in the year that's coming. So it helped me 100%.
So congratulations.
I'm not mad for it. I'm not mad at all about it that it happened at all. I'm glad that happened.
Yeah. So congratulations, you get drafted, right? And a lot of guys go from wherever, shipped to the Midwest or the Northeast or Northwest, and God only knows in June, you get going in July or whatever. It's crazy that first year in as a pro ball player because depending on where you get drafted and what if you play deep into the College World Series, a lot of factors go into it, right? What was that transition like, going from college player to first year as a pro now, and this actually has become a job that I'm going to get paid some money for to do?
It's it's crazy, and what a lot of kids that are kind of chasing that dream right now don't realize is that you're not only competing against kids here in the United States, you have all those Latin American countries. I'm talking about Dominican, Venezuela, Cuba, and those kids are the real deal. So when I showed up, and probably half the dudes I talked to spoke Spanish, and I was like, oh man, this is crazy because you don't really process that until you actually get there. So that whole aspect was crazy and awesome at the same time because you meet so many dudes from different cultures and different backgrounds and different mindsets for sure. So that was one of the biggest things for me that was surprising. Um, but when talking about playing, nothing really for me, nothing really changed. I kind of just took it day by day and just stuck to my process internally and just kind of went out there whenever I went out there. I was really nervous my first outing because when I got sent up to short season up in Salem, Oregon, and I remember my first batter, I gave up like a double off the wall. I was like, oh man, but I could tell like I was so nervous. And then as soon as he hit the double, I kind of just calmed down and kind of went back to what I did and just did that. But it's crazy. It takes time to adjust just because you have so many more games and you travel and a lot goes into it that people don't even realize.
Well, I'm sure over from being in Indiana, and then you've been playing for a number of years now in that organization, just moving up level by level. How important is arm care, especially for the kids listening right now that are in high school and they're like, "I just go out there and throw." You didn't get a lot of throws in high school, but how important is it now that you are a professional pitcher?
It's so important, not only arm care, but just the whole strength aspect of training. Strength training is so vital and so important, especially for the kids at their age, whether it be in seventh, eighth grade, even in high school. Just getting ahead of the game and uh, just really taking that whole side of baseball serious, because that's one of the biggest parts right now. Because there's so many, there's so much information out there, and there's so many positive things that are going on when talking about the strength side in baseball. And I was lucky enough to where my dad actually owns a gym in Rancho where I'm from, EM Speed and Power Training, and so I'd been doing training like that ever since he created it. So coming up on more than a decade now that he's been doing that. So
Mhm.
that helped me so much. Just getting ready for even going into college and just being prepared and learning how to do functional lifts and learning how to use your body and all that is, I think that's one of the biggest things that kids don't really take serious that they really need to take serious. It's not just like doing curls in the mirror after practice or doing barbell bench press like all the time. It's like there's really so much information and so much stuff that they could be doing to really, in increments, really just better themselves and get them ready for the next level.
Awesome. What's would you say as you've grinded up through level by level here, plugging away? What's the difference from level to level at the pro ball, level? Once you get the double A, kind of, they say you jump from there to the majors. A lot of the guys do, but what would you say is, the biggest difference from level to level?
Yeah, I think from the biggest difference for me was when I was in high and I got promoted to double A. That was kind of when you really realize how good some of these players are. And I got promoted. I was in the Eastern League, and just the difference in just hitters' approaches in general. I'd be throwing sliders, and dudes are just like looking at them like, whereas in A ball, people are swinging over the top of them. So you really have to kind of learn how to sequence, learn how to read hitter swings, and learn how to attack hitters and find their holes and find their weaknesses and pitch to your strengths and know your strengths and not try to be someone else just because you bumped up a level and you get hit around your first couple outings, and you can't panic and just search to try to be a whole different pitcher and learn all these new pitches just because you're up a level. You really just have to stay true to yourself and pitch to your strengths and trust yourself and just really just take your game to the next level, because I got humbled when I got to double A for sure, and I really had uh, my coach up there really helped me kind of dive into the whole pitch sequencing and um, just attacking hitters, and like I said, just reading their swings and just knowing what pitches to throw and what counts, and uh, just how to do that. That for sure helped me a lot.
Now, you talk about pitch sequencing. Um, Obviously, every league, every team has their, no matter the organization and the level, they all have scouting reports. You know the scouting report on yourself, just like you know the ones on the hitters you're going to be facing. Does that kind of get in your head a little bit once in a while? I mean, to where do I pitch against my tendencies in this 0-2 count? Do I do this, or is it one of those, like you said, trust in your stuff, believe in your stuff, and go attack? And if you're going to get beat with your best stuff, right? I mean, what is that like? It's a balancing act, I guess, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's positives and negatives for anything. So for me, uh, I think no matter who the hitter is, I don't really like to look at names. I just look at just the body in there. So I try to not give too much credit to hitters, even though they might be whoever they are. But that's kind of, in the beginning, scouting reports kind of got in my head a little bit, because you look at this guy as like, oh, he hits anything low in it, he's gonna hit a homer no matter what. You know what I'm saying? So for me, when I first got to Double A, reading all the scouting reports, I kind of was kind of pitching scared a little bit and kind of pitching backwards and not really pitching how I knew how I did to get up there. So, but at the same time, I love scouting reports because with all this information nowadays, you can literally know, you can know pretty much everything. You can look at their hitter's heat map or whatever and look at all their strengths, all their weaknesses, everything that you need to know essentially. And at the same time, they see the same thing for me. So I think for me, when I look at a scouting report nowadays, it's kind of I still pitch to my plan that I have in my head, but scouting reports for sure help with certain guys that uh, you play against, and they kind of you might find a little advantage here and there for a certain hitter. But yeah, the information that's out now is it's pretty crazy. It's crazy how it's evolved from when I first got drafted to where it is nowadays.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to know this from you because you seem like a guy that you seem very chill, but at the same time, you're very interested in becoming better. And we hear from a lot of people when they're talking about their careers, they ended up having a mentor or someone, or at least someone on the team, like let's just say a veteran player that's kind of been the person, not to show the ropes, but kind of guide you along through the process. Who is that person for you? Do you have someone like that?
Yeah, for sure. So when talking about players, there's a bunch of dudes that in my draft class that you kind of come up with that you're kind of just boys with naturally, and you just kind of go through the grind together and kind of help each other, uh, just help sharpen each other's game because those are guys you're just around every day, and you play catch with guys, and we're talking about pitchers, and they kind of know when you're off, they know when you're on, they kind of know when your pitches aren't as sharp as they could, and they kind of know what you're doing, so they kind of keep you on your game. So there's definitely guys like that. When it comes to coaches, um, in the Giants organization, Steve Klein is always kind of. He was a AAA coach last year. He was in Richmond when I first got there, when I first got called up, and he was a guy. He's in the big leagues for a while, and he's definitely got an old school mindset, but he welcomes the analytical side as well. Um, but he really helped me because he was a dude that just always kept it real with me. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't never a dude that would kind of pat you on the butt and be like, "Hey, it's okay, it's okay." He'd be like, "Dude, what are you doing out there?" You know what I'm saying? Or if he had a mound visit, he's like, "Dude, you need to do this, do that, do this and that." To have a coach like that, that's how Tracy was for me at Indiana University. So him as a coach really resonated with me because I was always a dude that just loved people who just shot it straight and just cut right to the core and just kind of black and white, no sugarcoat, nothing. Just tell me what I need to do and I'll do it. And tell me if I sucked today, tell me I sucked. If I was good, tell me I did good. Tell me what I did good. Tell me what I need to get better at. You know what I'm saying? So he's a guy uh, that just always he was kind of always in my corner, and he helped me with a ton when I first got to Double A. And he's still with the Giants organization. He still helps me with a lot because he's someone I kind of always go to. Um, him and my low A coach, Clay Rapata, he's the same kind of dude. He always kept it real with me, and he helped me a lot mechanically. So those two dudes really, up to this point, really helped me in my career with the Giants for sure.
Awesome. One thing here, this should be the start of something great, right? This should be your build up right now. With everything that's happening, baseball shut down, spring training ended, season delayed. What has this done to impact you as a player? And what are some of the things you're doing to stay sharp and stay ready? That way, when Major League Baseball says, "All right, it's time to go," that Ryan's ready to go.
Yeah, it's definitely crazy times, and nothing's like this has ever happened since in my career up to this point. So uh, it's I hope everybody's staying safe, and I hope everybody's loved ones is healthy and in good spirits. And at some point, there's stuff that's bigger than baseball. You got to take a step back and you got to realize what's really going on. So I'm in that sense, I'm happy that they took care of everything really kind of in a swift manner when talking about uh, canceling spring training and postponing everything. But for me, I'm kind of when it comes to training and throwing, I'm kind of just treating it like season's still going on. So I'm still training actively. I'm still throwing pretty much every day. My old college roommate, who was the one who got drafted to the Twins, actually is from Arizona. We're actually training and throwing together. So it's crazy how kind of life works and everything comes back full circle. So we're basically doing everything together just like we did in college. So I've been training, uh, weightlifting, everything like that, throwing, getting off the mound. So for me, whether if it's 2 weeks, if it's 2 months, whatever, I'll be ready whenever. So I kind of I've already built up to be ready for season. It's just like in my eyes, why take my foot off the gas pedal? Just kind of keep it going.
Now, I guess I would assume that this affects starting pitchers probably more than anyone in the game, right? Am I right or wrong on that?
You're right for sure because it's just a tricky situation because if you're a starter and they're probably built up at this point, they're built up to like 3 or 4 innings in spring. So for this to happen now, it's kind of
Start all over.
yeah. Some for I know some guys they might just depends on who you are and kind of knowing your body and what works best for you. So some guys might just kind of keep it at a moderate pace and keep it at like 2 innings now and then when they kind of get a timeline build back up. But some guys, for their bodies, they just like to take a week or two off and then kind of ramp it all the way back up. So it's tough for them because they're on a pitch count and inning limit. So as relievers, we're expected to go out there, go 1+, maybe 2 innings to start the year. So it's a little bit different for us to where they need to be ready to go. But at the same time, when the dust settles and everything kind of goes back to what it is, I'd imagine there'd be another spring training or something and give everybody time to kind of build up and get back ready for a startup date.
Now, on the topic of startup day, we were just talking to a minor league hitting coach for the Reds, Jordan Stauffer, and I wanted his opinion on this. And you might not have an opinion or about it at all, but I heard a crazy thing today about if the season starts in June, we can play 162 games and we'll have the World Series, the last game of the World Series on Christmas or the day after Christmas. If the season starts at, let's say, June, July, do you think 162 games is something that most players are going to want to play, or do you think a shortened season is probably going to be the best bet?
It's tough because with so much information coming in literally hourly, daily, that kind of affects everything when talking about a startup day. So as of now, there's really no solidified anything. It's all kind of just talks. I would assume at this point. So, and from what I've heard, I've heard they want to play a lot of double headers. So that's also a tricky situation because um, you're going to have a lot of double headers. And when talking about at the big league level,
Could
that's a
be good
lot
for
of,
you. Could be good
yeah,
for Ryan.
it's a lot of games, it's a lot of innings, and it might start a little
Yeah.
cycle and get guys opportunities. So that's also a different aspect. That's kind of uh, it's just crazy. This whole thing happens so fast and it's crazy. There's so many things that they could do, and I'm sure they're talking about. I'm sure they're weighing every single option possible. So there's so many ways they could kind of go with it. It just kind of depends on when everything settles down and gets taken care of that they could kind of really get everything solidified and see what they're actually going to do.
So staying on that, I want to ask you real quick before we wind down here with a few more questions. What is it that you personally feel you need to do to crack that 40-man roster, to crack that big league roster and get your shot? And maybe it isn't a season like this where it's crazy and they go double headers and you're going to need more relief guys. There's no way that, a 9-man bullpen is going to hold up through some of that. So what is it that you think you need to do to kind of just you take that last final step to get to where you ultimately want to get to?
Yeah, for me, my biggest thing is just staying healthy and staying on the field because if you're hurt, you can't get those opportunities. And baseball is a game where it's so crazy to where it changes year to year, and there's always people who have success, and it's just the way it goes is crazy. So for me, just being on that field, being available, uh, just getting out there and just getting outs, there's always a chance you can get an opportunity. So that's my biggest thing. I don't really get too caught up in stuff like that and like, oh, I need to get called up at this time or else this is gonna happen. Like I just go out there and, like I said, I try to take care of my body best I can when talking about diet and just stay on my regiment on the strength side, and just stay available and stay healthy because uh, if you're on the field, anything can happen. Once you're on the mound, you can kind of dictate what happens when you're out there. If you're hurt, you can't. If you're in the training room, you can't get any opportunity. So that's my biggest thing.
Yeah, I should have asked this earlier, but this kind of ties in here as well. Um, is there a player right now, a relief pitcher? We'll just say we'll stick with relief pitcher that's in the big leagues today, or someone maybe even from the past, from growing up and watching that you watch their game and you're just like, yeah, he's doing it right, or this is the guy I would love to emulate. Is there any players like that in your life or from the past that you kind of emulate your game the way you play it?
Yeah. So me growing up, actually family friends. His name is Addison Reed, and he got drafted by the White Sox, played for the D-backs, played for the Mets, signed a deal with the Twins, and he's actually a couple years older than me. So I went to high school with him for a year. So he ended up going to San Diego State with Strasburg, um, and so just always being around him and kind of watching his game as a pitcher, and him being kind of a tall right-handed reliever. I was just always just saw similarities in him when I was out there on the mound. So kind of having him to kind of almost as a mentor in a sense, because before he moved out to Arizona, I want to say he was training at my dad's gym back in Rancho in the off season, and that's when I was in college. So when I was back there, he'd be training, and I'd always kind of talk to him, kind of bounce stuff off of him, and just he kind of helped me develop a stronger mindset and definitely kind of anchored down a routine when talking about just the daily lifestyle of a ball player. So he was big for me, just to kind of just a guy I could kind of look up to and kind of emulate my game after, and just kind of use kind of what he did and try to uh, use stuff that he did and just kind of help my game out.
Awesome. One thing I want to ask is, shoot, I lost my train of thought. As you are pitching and you've had these failures, and you say like you had that time you gave up a double off the wall, what do you do mentally as a pitcher to kind of just put stuff in the toilet and move into the next pitch? Or, you've made a great pitch and a guy gets a great swing and barrels it up. For those players out there that are listening, what would you tell them, how to rebound from that?
Yeah, it's I mean, if dudes kind of say they don't get really caught up in it, it's hard. It's honestly hard not to. So I've been hit around a ton. So especially at the professional level, more than any level, you can't let anything kind of get to you because there's so many games, and you're talking about we get probably a couple off days a month. So if you get hit around one outing, you're gonna have to be ready to pitch that very next night. So if you get hit around, you kind of sulk and moan about it and kind of feel sorry for yourself. You're going to go out there and pitch again, and you could get touched up again. And then all of a sudden, when talking about a reliever season, you have two outings where you get touched up in a row. That could be your season right there. So when talking about numbers, if you're a numbers guy. So for me, I kind of go out there, and at this point, uh, whatever happens, happens. And I kind of go out there, and if I get touched up one night, like I could care less. I come back and I'm gonna go compete the next day. It's not it happens. It's baseball. It's kind of where I'm at with that whole thing at this point in my career. It's kind of you go out there, and if it happens, it's meant to be. If not, whatever.
Awesome. Now we've asked tons of questions here, Ryan, and we talked about a lot of things. Was there anything before we move on to the last few questions that we didn't touch on that you'd like to kind of give light to? Anything that's you could give advice to anybody?
I think we covered a ton for sure. I think just for me, when talking about the kids that are kind of coming up and just kind of trying to chase that dream, I think because I work with a ton of kids in the off season, and I see it a ton. I think a lot of them just don't realize how serious the grind is, and kind of what it takes to get to where you want to be. Because, like I said before, when I first got drafted, and all of a sudden, I realized that you had to compete against all the Latin countries like Dominican, Venezuela, Cuba, stuff like that. They don't even realize that. So you got so many kids, especially with baseball nowadays. You have so many kids that are getting so ahead of the game when talking about eating, training, everything. So there's so many kids that are so dedicated and so serious about their craft and what they do that if you really want to make it nowadays, you really got to get serious, or else it's going to be kind of a rude awakening, because the amount of information and the amount of analytical stuff there is out these days, and the amount of stuff that these kids can have access to and can take advantage of, the kids that really tap into that and take advantage of stuff like that, those are the kids that are really going to skyrocket, because that's really the separators, taking it really serious and just diving into that whole aspect of the game, and to try to implement it into yourself.
I was gonna say you can't hide anymore. You can't, nothing happens by accident like anymore, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
If you could tell your younger self anything, 13 to 15 years old, what would you go back and say to yourself now after all these experiences, being drafted multiple times, going to Indiana out of nowhere, tearing an ACL, coming back, making it to the pros? What would you go back and tell that younger self?
Let's see. When I was 12 or 13, I never thought I was gonna play college baseball, let alone professional baseball. So for me, I would say just keep doing your thing, man, and just stay humble, stay grounded, and just keep doing what you love, and just keep fighting every day for your dream. Because that's when I was at that age, I was just so invested in baseball and just everything that that came with it. So I wasn't even thinking in the future at that point. I was just like, give me that ball, let's play baseball. So I would just say, keep doing your thing, and just keep doing your thing, and it'll work out for you.
Awesome. Well, hey, we got a listener question for you, Ryan. It says, Ryan, this is from Dan Langford. Ryan, what has been your favorite moment up until this point in your career?
I would say for sure going to Omaha in 2013 at Indiana, because that was kind of a dream that manifested for me that I thought would never be able to happen, especially with a team like Indiana that so many people wrote us off that year. We weren't even ranked, and that program had never been to Omaha in its history. So that was a very special year in my baseball career, because we really came together as a squad and kind of wrote out all these dreams and goals for the year. And we manifested pretty much all of them besides winning the national championship. So that was a really special year for me.
It's got to be incredible. What would be some of your goals in the next 3 to 5 years? Obviously, I'm sure making it to the big leagues would be one of them, but what would be a couple of other goals that you'd like to achieve?
Yeah, definitely big leagues is in the cards for me when talking about goals. Um, that's definitely a big one, and it's really in my mindset right now. It's hard to focus on a lot of other things, because I've invested so much time and grinding and try to attain that goal. That's kind of everything else is kind of in the back burner. We're talking about other hobbies and other stuff that I kind of other ventures that I want to do, because that's kind of been kind of tunnel vision for these last couple of years, just try to attain that goal. So kind of once that dream and kind of goal gets set for me, and if I'm able to do that, then I think a lot of other stuff comes into play. But that's my main one right now, 100%.
Awesome, man. That's a good goal, and we're gonna definitely be watching, and can't wait till the day it happens, man. Well, that's going to be an awesome thing. I do have to do this before we talk about our last three questions here. Your sister Paige was on the show a while back, and she's watching right now. So I'm curious. She did say that you were a wild pitcher when you were little. So what's a funny story
Yeah,
you can tell
man.
your sister?
Yeah, man. She kind of drugged me for a little bit, but she kind of exposed me. But no, it's all jokes though. We're homies. We're like the same person. So she's 5 years younger than me, obviously. She went to UCLA, had a ton of success there. Played for USA softball. Just watching her, she won the Natty her last year. There, she's graduated now, but just I don't know, man. Just watching her grow, it was tough for me because I was never able to be present during all those times she went to OKC because I was always playing in season, so I was always watching. But just to see her grow as a person, as a woman, as a player, I'm just so proud of what she did and all of her success, and can't wait to see what her ventures are with softball in the near future. So she did a lot for the game, a lot for the Bruins with her time there, and just impacted a lot of young girls' lives. So I'm just really proud of her for that, for sure. But I want to say, whenever she tried to catch my bullpen, she got scared. So I can't say that. She can't really say that I was a wild pitcher. I don't think.
She was just getting out the way.
No, but we always compete with each other. It's all fun, but we love to compete, and that's just her just growing up around me and all my friends playing baseball. She was always in the mix and playing football, baseball, soccer, basketball, whatever it was. So she was always, like I said, she's 5 years younger, so she was always competing against guys.
One thing I do want to ask real quick in this, it goes together a little bit, is be careful kind of what you wish for, right? You become a pro, you're traveling across the country, you're missing family moments, you're only getting a day, 3 days off, you're not always getting to eat at a great hour sometimes after a game. How tough is that as a pro athlete, or have you come accustomed to it now after all these years?
It's tough is an understatement, man. It's a grind for sure because like I said, the schedule's crazy, especially down in the minors when you're looking at when you're talking about bus rides, and there's some times where we'll play, have to eat really quick or stop at a gas station. I got my gas station meals locked down right now, and I know what I want every time I go on a gas station on a stop. So it's helped me in that aspect, but it's a grind, man, and you got to really take it serious because that's such a big part of recovery and just getting ready to keeping your body prepped to play every single day, which is crazy because you'll play some nights, you'll get done at 10 o'clock, 10:30, bus leaves at midnight, and you got to go travel 7 hours, get in super early in the morning, then you play that night. So you got to really take care of yourself on and off the field when talking about sleep, recovery, nutrition, diet, preparation. It's no joke.
It's awesome. And I was all the answers you gave today, man. They were just fantastic. Just kind of doing research on you. I'm glad you talked about all the times you were drafted, because I'm looking at it, I'm like, wait, this guy was drafted 3 times. Like, what's going on? My brain was just like, this doesn't make any sense. I'm gonna have him talk about it because I was also wrapped up in it. I'm like,
who does that 3 times?
Yeah, they were like, that just doesn't make any sense at all. But man, it's been an excellent interview, and the stories are what we do this for. The stories and the connections that we can make. We interviewed your sister and made a connection with you, and both of you had 2 amazing stories. And looking forward to watching you grind, man, and get to the show. But with that being said, who can you recommend for us to reach out to that we could have on the show for another story and another great bit of knowledge that they can give to our listeners?
I would say you just get me and my sister on at the same time. We can hash it out.
That's perfect.
That's Family Feud.
Yeah, we can do it that way.
Perfect.
That's funny.
That's hilarious.
That's perfect.
I can't imagine the answers we would get to those questions. Yeah.
You'd have some funny arguments, that's for sure.
Actually, we probably should have your parents on, and they could both tell the stories about you two. That'd probably be the better one.
You just have a screen looking like the Brady Bunch. My whole family can be on here.
Exactly.
Ryan, appreciate it, man. We got just a couple here. Where can people find you online if they want to follow along on your journey? I'm sure you'll be sharing pictures of your season when you get a chance to once it gets going.
Yeah, mostly. I don't tweet that much, but I'm on Twitter. My handle's at Halstead. I'm on Instagram more. It's the same thing, at Halstead. So if anybody wants to find me on social media, that's my handle for pretty much all platforms. So RYHALSTEAD. So.
And have you been told what team you're going to report to once you get going, or is that still up in the air?
That usually, the way that works, it's kind of, we find out a week before spring training gets over with, usually. So
you got a little bit.
As of now, yeah. No clue as of now.
Oh, man. Well, Ryan, we got one more question for you. This is my favorite question to ask just because I feel like music really tells a lot about the person, and especially when they're in moments where they want to thrive and succeed and get geared up. So with that being said, let's just say you get your first shot at the big show and you're on the big stage, you're walking out to the mound. What song do you want to hear playing?
When it comes to getting zoned in and amped up for a game, I'm a big rap guy. Earlier in my career, I was being from the West Coast. I always had to walk out by the game. I've kind of gravitated more towards like J. Cole, Dreamville. I really love what they're doing. They really get me going for a game. So I had Fire Squad in college by J. Cole. I would probably it's a new song off their album Revenge of the Dreamers. It's called Out of Pocket. It's by pretty much all of Dreamville, which is a compilation of artists.
Excellent. Awesome, man. We thank you so much for hanging out with us today. I'm sure you'd rather be playing right now.